And so in this video we are going to create a project in RubyMotion, and one of the most important concepts to understand is the fact that RubyMotion does not have a visual interface. There is no button that you click to create a new project, there is nothing like Xcode. What you actually use to create the project and manage the project is the command line. This means that you write out various commands to do various actions like create a project or to run the project in the simulator. And don't worry if you've never used the command line, it's not complicated. The RubyMotion based functions are very basic, very simple, so you will understand pretty much everything just after watching this one video. But so the first thing we want to do is open up Terminal, because this is the default application on macOS that allows us to work with the command line. And so what you'll see here is something like this. Don't worry about all that junk that's on the screen at the moment, it doesn't really matter. But before we can create the project itself, we have to create a folder to put our project in. We don't really have to do it, but it's just better to be organized. Because by default, Terminal assumes that you want to work with your home directory, meaning the directory we're in at the moment is technically the directory you see now here in the Finder, which is this Unity folder, which is our home folder. So what we could do is create a new folder in here and call it like RubyMotion, and that is now a folder we can put our RubyMotion files in. But that's not really the best way to do it, or at least we should be doing most things via the command line. It's useful to know the various functions. And so what we want to do for the moment is delete that folder, go over to Terminal, and type out the command mkdir, which stands for make directory, and then just give it whatever name you want. We'll just call it RubyMotion. And as you can see over here in the Finder, we just created that folder via the command line. Now you don't have to do that, but that is probably a good way to handle it. Or at least it's useful to be able to do everything via the command line and not have to worry about the graphical interface. At this point though, we need to go into that folder where we can create our project. So what we do now is go cd, which is change directory, and we go RubyMotion. And so now we're inside the RubyMotion folder that we just created. And just to be absolutely clear, that cd command is basically the same as double clicking on a folder. That's all it's doing. So here in the Terminal is the same thing we have here in the Finder. So it's really not the sort of thing you should overthink. These are some very basic commands. We're not doing anything different from what we're used to doing on a computer. It's simply done with commands instead of clicking on buttons. At this point though, it is time to create our project itself. And so we go back to Terminal, and I'll write up the command and then explain it. So what we're going to do is go motion space create, and then we can just give it a project name, whatever we want to call it. I'll just call it Hello World. And as you can see here, a bunch of files have been created. You can see in our RubyMotion folder, a folder for our project has also been created. And if you click on that, you can see all the different files in here. So we have the rake file, resources, spec, app, all these different files and folders. And the command itself is pretty easy to understand. The motion part of the command basically says this is a RubyMotion based command. The create basically says create a new project, and the Hello World part is simply the name we chose to give the project. And for the moment, that is all you have to understand about creating a RubyMotion project. In the future, when you open up Terminal, you will have to navigate back to your project folder if you want to edit those particular files. But once again, just use the cd command, so it's the change directory command, and sooner rather than later you will understand just how efficient it can be to do everything via the command line, to not be clicking on buttons with the mouse or anything, just doing it all with typing on the keyboard. It is definitely a great way to work, even if it feels a bit unintuitive just to begin with.